Welcome. Hello. I am Dr. Peggy McColl, and I'm here to talk to you about a very important subject, failure. Yes, failure. From failure to success and the shift that can absolutely guarantee results for you. You see, many people are confused as far as what is failure really means. Or when people come up against obstacles or challenges, they define it as failure and they begin to think that it's a sign. It's a sign that I'm not supposed to do this, or I'm not supposed to be there, or I'm not going to succeed. And what they do is they validate their beliefs that do not support them to get them to where they want to go. So I decided today we're going to talk about failure because failure is a very important, and yes, it is important, and I'll explain why in a minute, an important part of success. I've certainly experienced failure in my life. I'm certain that I'll experience it again in the future. Not that I'm expecting it, not that I am assuming that it's going to happen. It is just part of the process. You see, if success was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? And it's not that success is hard either. In fact, I wrote a book. One of my 27 books is called Darn Easy. But the reason why I wrote that book, Darn Easy, is because success can become easier and easy for you when you condition yourself for success. And part of that conditioning yourself for success involves the understanding of what does it mean when you're up against this thing called failure, or the F word. Some people might think of another word as the F word, but we're going to call it failure is part of the experience of success. And I think also if we sat here today and we diagnosed numerous people, recognized names, people that you know, I know, that have created phenomenal success in their life, we would also find that they failed over and over and over again. All right. But they did not allow the failure to stop them. Now, what I want to cover off here for you today is I want to talk to you about how do you deal with it? How do you actually deal with failure? I think back in my own life, up until the point, January 1979, where I met Bob Proctor, I would say my life was somewhat of a failure. Now, there were certainly some successes in there, but that's not what I was choosing to look at, what I was choosing to give my attention to. I was choosing at that time, way back then, to only look at what's wrong with my life, what's wrong with my results. And the truth is that we have the ability to choose to give our attention to anything. And when you give your attention to something, it expands. And so if you're constantly looking at what's wrong with your life, or the lack that's in your life, or the lack of results, then you're just going to get more and more of that. Now, you may be thinking, is it really that simple, Peggy? Yes, it's absolutely that simple. So I'm going to give you some techniques today as well, because it's not enough to just understand what does this really mean, this failure thing, and how do we deal with it? It's more important to understand, yes, what failure is and how you can use it for your advantage, yes, to your advantage, but it's also equally important to know how to shift away from that negativity or from that potential destruction. Now, think about this. If there were two roads in front of you, and one road was success and the other road was failure, and unbeknownst to you, you ended up on the road to failure. And I say unbeknownst to you because many people don't even realize that they're on that road to failure. Now, how do you know if you're on that road to failure? You know you're on the road to failure by how you feel and by looking at your present results. So if your results are not where you want to be, and this is very important, and A-N-D, and you are feeling defeated, then you're definitely on the road to failure. However, you can shift over at any point, like a highway in your city or in a nearby town, a highway that allows you to exit the highway that you're on and get onto another road, onto another pathway. So what I want to help you with is understand how to get away from negative, destructive thoughts, recurring emotions, activities that aren't serving you, that aren't supporting you, and show you how to easily get on that road to success. Now, here's what's exciting. Every once in a while you'll see detours or construction in towns. And you'll see a sign like a big orange and black sign that says detour and it says local residents only. In other words, you can go on that road, you can get to where you want to go, but it's only for the people that actually live there. And so it's exclusive. It's, only the people that are only allowed to go there are the people that actually live in that area. But this is the fun thing about the Success Road. Anybody can get on it. Anybody can choose to go on the Success Expressway. And that's what I love to help people do and accomplish, is getting on the Success Expressway to actually, create some momentum in their life where they're creating success after success. Now, what happens is this is what happens, as we're driving along. Sometimes we're driving along and then bam, we hit a roadblock. Or sometimes we're driving along and all of a sudden there is a detour. And sometimes we're driving along and everything is flowing smoothly. But the point is, this is just part of life. So I want to give you a new way of looking at obstacles or challenges that show up in your life, and then help you condition yourself to recognize when the obstacles are there and perhaps the value and what the lessons are bringing to you. What does this really mean for you? And also to understand that when you're in experience of growth, when you're choosing to experience something you've never experienced before, when you've chosen to go somewhere where you've never gone before, there will likely be an enormous amount of discomfort. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to experience the discomfort, but most people do. So why do I say that? Because it's important to understand that discomfort is part of growth. It's part of the journey. I remember a saying that I heard probably back in 1979 that goes like this: it's better to step forward into growth than step back into safety. It's better to step forward into growth than step back into safety. But let's think about that quote for a moment. It's better to step forward into growth. What it doesn't say is the discomfort that you feel when you're stepping forward into growth. So I think a great example of that is back in January 1979. I was at an event that was put on by the company that I was working for at the time. I was living in Toronto, Ontario. I was born in Toronto. I live in Ottawa now, but I was living in Toronto at the time. And the company that I worked for was a thriving, exciting word processing company. We were really doing well in the world, and our products were recognized as the best, and it was a fun place to work. And our director of the division that I was working in wanted to throw a big event, and he hired Bob Proctor to come and speak at that event. And so I had never been exposed to personal development before. I didn't know who Bob Proctor was. In fact, Bob Proctor had previously retired from the business, but it was this director, his name was Duncan Forche, that actually inspired Bob to come back into the business. And I'm so glad he did, because that's when I met Bob. Now, Bob had entered into the business of personal development in the 1970s. So he had worked in the business for a few years and then got out of the business. So this is 1979 where he really came back. And so at the end of the evening of his talk, Bob presented an offer. And the offer was to work with him through an 8-week program. Now, this is before the internet. So this is when we used to go to seminar rooms regularly, and he would do it in the evening for people that were employed and had regular jobs. So one night a week, and it was a Thursday evening, Bob would have these events, these trainings. And back then he called them the results seminar. And I really wanted to go. When I heard Bob speak, I mean, it was like this, incredible epiphany experience. He was talking about, if you want your life to change, you must change. And I knew my life wasn't working the way I wanted it to work. I knew I wanted change in my life. I was really desiring to have positive change in my life. And he also said that you cannot escape from a prison unless you know you're in one. Now, the prison he was referring to is a prison that we make up with our own mind, with consciousness. And many people even today are stuck in a prison of consciousness. They're stuck in a prison of negativity. And that's not a judgment. It's simply an observation. It was certainly where I was. It's also called ignorance, not rude, but ignorance meaning not knowing. I didn't know. I didn't know that it was possible for me to change my life. I didn't know that I was the creator of my destiny. I did not know that. So I was definitely ignorant. I was absolutely locked away in a prison of my own making. And I didn't think I could escape, but I didn't even realize that I wasn't even in a prison. It was a consciousness that I was involved in. It was a habitual way of being, which would never have broken me free. But what I knew from that evening is that Mr. Bob Proctor could show me the way. He could show me the way to success. He could show me the way to enlightenment. He could show me the way to joy. He could show me the way to wealth. So I really had this deep, deep desire within me to learn from him. It's like, I know he knows what I can do to turn my life around. But here was the problem. I didn't have the money to invest in his program. In fact, at that time, even though I was a young girl, I think it was around 20 years of age, I was already in debt. I had accumulated debt. Now, sure, I had some credit cards, but I didn't have the money to take that program. And so I didn't know how I was going to be able to get into this program. But something inside me, whether it was an intuition, whether it was inspiration, something just said, go and sign up. So I went and got one of the order forms. I filled it out. I put my credit card information on the form. And back then, they didn't have these automated devices that you just, tap your card or insert your card in a machine and it says declined or approved. I mean, back then it was just fill in a form and boom, you're in. And that's what I did. So I thought, okay, if this is meant to be, it's going to happen. Now, that's what was my mentality back then. Now, yes, it absolutely put my credit card over the limit, which meant my next bill was going to require me to bring it down below the limit. But at that time, I was carrying credit card debt. I mean, I had this credit card debt that was accumulated, but I wasn't paying it off every month. I was just adding more and adding more and adding more and paying whatever the minimum was every month. So did it seem like a really good decision to go and put more money on a credit card for a course or a seminar? Of course not. But something inside me said to do it because it was an investment in myself. It was an investment in my future. And I really felt that, intuitively that it was going to be something that would really help me see clearly, help me feel better, and help me get on that road to success. So I did it. I moved forward. Now, certainly I felt an enormous amount of fear at the time. But I will absolutely say it was one of the best decisions of my life. Absolutely one of the best decisions. Now, if I told you right now that I enrolled in Bob Proctor's, weekly seminars and my life turned into something beautiful and magical, I would be lying to you. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. What happened for me was, yes, it opened up a new way of thinking, a new way of being, but was I without challenges from that point on? Did everything just all of a sudden run smoothly? No, of course not. What happens is this, and this is part of what we need to understand as we think of failure. You see, you and I, we're all programmed a certain way. We've all been programmed. And it's like a computer, right? We're programmed. Zoom, YouTube, they all have programs that are behind them that make them operate and run a certain way. So do we. Now, how did the programming get in there? Well, the programming got in there through our awareness. The programming got in there through our senses, through what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we taste as well. That's part of it as well. Mostly it's through what we see and what we hear. So it could be things that you've read or things that you've heard. So the programming that I had within me was not a program for the trajectory of success. The programming that I had within me was programmed for failure. And why? Because that's what I had taken in through my life. I didn't have models of success. I didn't have examples of people that were confirming, oh, Peggy, you can do anything you set your mind to. I didn't have that at all. In fact, even if I thought of doing something that I had never done before, it would get squished or squashed because of the negative thinking of people that were around me. Now, I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming them at all. I let it in. right? We have that ability to let it in or block it. Now, I didn't even know that. I didn't even realize that I have the ability to block the stuff, the crap that's never going to serve me. So all this programming that we've taken in, and at that point, as I said, I was 20 years of age, had basically conditioned me to be a certain way, habitual in a certain way, not in the way for success. So I knew I had to build a new program within me. I had to create a subconscious mind that would be supportive of and build the beliefs. And I do this because building beliefs is like building muscles. They have to be worked on, worked on, worked on every single day, not once in a while, every single day. The reason why I say that is, think about this. We have 24 hours a day, right? Now we're awake for, I don't know, 16, 18, some people a little bit more hours a day. And during those hours that we are awake, we are taking in information and we are either feeding the program of success or we're feeding the program of failure, right? Not even consciously. Many people are just not even awake consciously. They don't even realize what they're doing. They don't even realize that they're thinking the thoughts of negativity. They're thinking the thoughts of destruction. They're thinking the thoughts of lack over and over and over again. And what are they doing? They are building the beliefs that don't support them. So if we look at a 16-hour period that you're awake, assuming that you're awake for 16 hours a day, during that period of time, are you feeding the beliefs that support you? Or are you feeding beliefs, maybe not even being aware of that are keeping you stuck or in lack or in results that you don't want? Now, I will tell you that it takes an enormous amount of discipline and dedication to make the change. And so when I began studying with Bob Proctor in January 1979, it was years before I started to feel differently. In fact, I believe it was around 1983 that I started feeling a little differently. And I remember feeling happy, feeling the experience of joy, because I never really experienced that before. I didn't know what that felt like. But I started to feel better. I started to feel better. And better, as Bob Proctor used to say, is a good word. So I started to feel better. Now, if I stopped right then and there, I would not have grown even further or strengthened the new beliefs that I was impressing through repetition, through daily work, through choosing to invest in the energy throughout that 16-hour period of time that I was awake during the day. So I kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And it became an addiction, but a good addiction. I am absolutely addicted to personal development. I remember one time chatting with a girlfriend of mine who opened a gym, like a fitness center. And she told me about her journey into fitness. And she said she started working out and she felt good. And then she'd work out more because it felt good. And then she got to a point where she loved it so much she wanted to teach other people how to work out as well and started doing fitness classes. And then she ended up buying a fitness center and she was doing that full time. And she told me, I remember her and I were on a vacation one time and we're sitting by the pool. And she told me that she was addicted to fitness and to working out. And I said, I'm addicted to personal development. Good addictions, right? I mean, these are addictions that will absolutely serve you. But, where results really go from, one level to another level and actually skip, like take major, major quantum leaps, is when you discipline yourself consistently. When you decide that every hour of every day, you're choosing to be aligned with your outcome. Now, I'm going to talk about failure again, because it can still occur even when you are choosing to be aligned regularly. In fact, I wrote about that and provided tools in my latest book called The Moment of Alignment. This is a very important book. And if you don't already have it, get it today. Absolutely get yourself a copy of The Moment of Alignment. In there, I talk about the value of being aligned, understanding what happens when you are aligned, and also the processes for putting yourself back in alignment when you find yourself out of alignment. And so even though we have the ability to be aligned at any time, because we're the ones that are in control of what's going on in our mind. Nobody else. It's not your partner. It's not your boss. It's not your parent. It's not your child. No one else is deciding what you're choosing to except into your consciousness, just you. And so when things can really change is when you discipline yourself enough to say, all right, enough is enough. It's time to shine. It's time to really get the results that I've been striving for. Because you know what? Life is a precious thing. None of us know how much time we have. Nobody knows how much time we have. That is the unknown factor that we have in life. So you have it right now. You're here right now. You're listening to me right now. So just make a decision right here, right now at whatever time it is. What time is it right now? 12:20 on November the 19th, 2025, that you're going to make a change in your life today that's going to make a big difference. You're no longer going to look at failure as something that is bad or negative or poor you or something that you're going to remind yourself of over and over again because you recreate it. It's like you're programming it and strengthening it in your mind when you start to think about failures that you've had in your life. So here's what you do about the failure. One is you recognize it is what it is, right? It is what it is. If something is happening to you right now or has happened in your life, it's because of what's gone on in your mind previously. That's it. That's all. Okay. What do you have? You have a new moment. This moment. This is your moment of creation. This is your moment to choose something differently. So if you would consider or you look at your life and you think that it isn't the way you want it to be, or you might even define it as a failure, or some part of your life is a failure, maybe it's in relationships, maybe it's in finance, maybe it's in your career or whatever, let it go. Let it go. It doesn't serve you. Let it go. It is what it is. It's in the past. What would you love now? Ask yourself that question. What would I love now? And then you answer the question. It's not enough to just ask yourself the question. Then you answer the question, and then you get aligned with the emotional response of what does it feel like now that I have that in my life? Forget about the failure. Now, if you want to give attention to your failure, here's what I would do. I would give thanks for it because it's in the past, right? Thank you. You're done. Thank you for the lesson. Learn from it. You can learn from your failures as well. You know, as I said at the start of our live event today, is that there isn't a successful person on this planet who hasn't experienced failure, who hasn't heard no, who hasn't been up against obstacles. I think about, like I mentioned a moment ago, that this is my 27th book. And I'm working on my this is my 26th book. My 27th is coming out in January, called Make a Million Look Small. Working on another book right now. But I remember when I wrote my first book, and we could call this a failure because I wrote the book, self-published the book, brought the book out to the market, and nothing was happening. No sales. But did I give up? Obviously not, because I'm sitting here chatting with you right here, right now. So I looked at the scenario and thought, okay, what am I missing here? What can I do better? What can I learn? And I discovered something. I choose to learn from people that had blazed the trail before me. That's who Bob Proctor was for me. He was somebody who had blazed the trail before me. So I decided I'm going to find out, what do I need to do in order to create the results that I want? So I found mentors, teachers, programs, and I invested. I have been investing in my success my whole life, and I never stop. Why? Because we can all of us always get better and better and better results. That's called growth. That's called being a human being. But when I launched my first book, nothing was happening. I didn't even know why nobody was buying the book. I wrote a great book. Why weren't the buyers there? But they weren't. So I realized, okay, I need to learn. I need to learn more about how to create success. So you move past it. And the faster you move past those failures, the better it is. You want to move fast, fast, fast. You want to get yourself back aligned with what you desire, because you have a moment of opportunity. You have a moment of creation. You have a moment to be aligned. And every single moment that you have, which is right here, right now, is an opportunity. So use it. Time is a very valuable resource. Yeah. All right, great. I just want to see who was joining us here today. So I put on my reading glasses so I could see you. So I'm certain all of you have had experiences in your life where you can relate to what I'm talking about. You can relate to failure, right? And that's okay. It is what it is. It is what it is. Just keep going. Just keep swimming, as Dory would say in Finding Nemo. You got to keep going. But I'll tell you, the best thing that you can do for your successful life, the best thing that you can get involved with every single day is choosing to be aligned with your outcome as if it's already done. Regardless of what's going on, regardless of what is in your bank account or not in your bank account, get aligned and get aligned right now. You're very welcome. I appreciate that. Now, somebody just wrote in the chat box, thanks for the teaching. That is a powerful energy gratitude. And I appreciate you for saying that. And I'm mentioning it because this is a way to success. Being grateful. You can be grateful for those failures. You can be grateful for the experience. You can be grateful that it's in the past. You can be grateful for what you have, even if it's just a little bit. Be grateful. So thank you for sharing that, because that is a wonderful example of somebody who has a great attitude, a wonderful attitude of success. Now, something I want to mention before we wrap up for the day, because we just have a couple minutes, is we are right now hosting some wonderful Black Friday deals. Now, you can find them, you can be led to them right from the front page of my website, peggymccall.com. Now, I've noticed that there's a company called Cloudflare that actually supports many, many websites in the world, millions, in fact, and they've been having some technical challenges lately. And right now, as I go to my website, it's not coming up. So I think they're having some more challenges. It was completely down yesterday, but nonetheless, we are offering 6 of my programs at 75% off. One of them is called Rapid Manifestations, 75% off. Another one's called Aligned to Prosperity. Another one's called Epitome Author. If you're interested in studying any of the programs that are available in our Black Friday deal, go and check them out now, because they're not going to be there forever. They're just there for about another 10 days or so. And so it's a special deal. I've never done this before, by the way, but I felt intuitively guided to do it because I just felt that more and more people are craving this information. They're craving the knowledge. They're craving the understanding. And I want to help people create the results that they want. So if you find in your life that you have been failing, and maybe lately, I want you to understand that you might be closer than you realize. That's something else, because failure sometimes can be feedback. It can be a redirection. It could be strengthening. It could be further clarification. But what it does is it gives you valuable understanding. You're not aligned. But when you get aligned, you're building resilience as well. And it sharpens you. It stretches you as well. Use it as inspiration as well. I want to find a quote that I wrote recently that I think really sums this up well. And the quote goes like this: when you assume, and I suggest you do this, when you assume your success is inevitable, no failure can stop you. It can only shape you. Now, I'm going to put that in the chat box, something for you to think about. I'm just going to put it right over here in the chat box. Okay. Now let's think about what that's when you assume your success is inevitable, no failure is going to stop you. It can only shape you. And I want you to think about these words as well. Your success is absolutely guaranteed. Now, how is it that I could say that your success is absolutely guaranteed? Because I know who you are. I know your power. I know your potential. I know that you absolutely have the ability to create an enormous amount of success, endless amounts of success in your life, because you have a conscious mind. Your conscious mind is your powerhouse. Use it. Use it for good. Use it to keep you aligned, to stay away from the negativity, to put yourself right back on track. And if you like what this says, your success, or my success as it is written here, is absolutely guaranteed. And my success is absolutely guaranteed, but so is yours. Your success is absolutely guaranteed. Let's look at the other side of this. I live in the joyous expectancy of the best. Are you? Ask yourself, am I living in the joyous expectancy of the best? And if not, do it. Choose to live in the joyous expectancy of the best. The other side says, now that my dream is fulfilled, how do I feel? Now that my dream is fulfilled, how do I feel? You could ask yourself this question thousands of times in those 16 hours, your creative hours every day. Here's another one. What would I love? What would I love? You see, these quotes, these questions redirect you, strengthen you, and keep you on that road to success. All right. Yay. Okay. Sarah says she has those words hanging on her wall. I love that. Eric says, man, do I love you, Dr. McColl. You're so wonderful. Thank you, Eric. I love you too. So delighted to serve you guys. Thank you for being here. Okay, put it to work. Recognize the power that you have and go and create success now. I'll see you again in another one of our live events. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to serve.